You are listening to Amplify Your Success Podcast, episode 185. And today I want to revolutionize your paradigm about creating money, especially in turbulent times. Let's talk about how to become your own economy. So let's get started.
Welcome to the Amplify Your Success Podcast. Hey, are you a thought leader, creative entrepreneur, or change maker and want to magnify your impact? Boost influence while creating a financial abundance? Stay tuned for today's inspiring episode with your host, Melanie Benson.
Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Profit Amplifier Melanie Benson. And this is a really special and unique episode of Amplify Your Success Podcast. I am going to talk about how to become your own economy. I'm going to tackle 7 key steps you can take. And I'm talking about this today because as this airs, we're in a very strange time. We're in a time where a lot of people are falling prey to the fears around us, which are totally normal. However, as entrepreneurs, as people who have a unique relationship with money, we get to create our own financial economy. And I've been recognizing that a lot of people don't see that they have this skill inside them, that they have this ability, this capacity to create financial success on demand. Literally, like the sheer nature of being an entrepreneur means that you can actually create financial success on demand. Now, if you're getting triggered right now or you're thinking, Melanie, that's ridiculous, nobody's spending money right now, this is especially for you. If you tend to struggle financially all the time, like you really never quite have enough financial income flowing into your business, this is for you. And I'm excited to share this with you because I'm probably going to stretch your imagination of what you believed is possible up to now. I'm wrapping some of these strategies I'm going to share with you today around the concepts I teach in my Revenue Rush Toolkit. So the Revenue Rush Toolkit is 10 of my favorite proven strategies that allow you to create money when you need it the most. And I like to think of these as like fast cash injections. When you need money, you can pop one of these into your promotion strategies. You can try something different. And a lot of these things I know you know, but you might not have made time to implement them yet. And this tool is free. I do offer Revenue Rush roadmap sessions to help you customize it, but I want to get you the free resource to help you get started immediately at yourrevenuerush.com. Now, let me get into the strategies I'm going to teach, and along the way, I'll share some other resources that I offer here that might be exactly what you need right now to take this from an idea and be able to implement it successfully. Because as we all know, an idea is just an idea until you take action on it, and that's what actually gets results. So take these ideas that really you think, wow, okay, I'm not doing that, this would work, and make a commitment to implement the 1 or 2 that you know you need to take action on right now. What I want for you as an outcome today is to recognize that you have more financial control than you allow yourself to believe. And if you know this already and you still are not able to ramp up that revenue, then probably you've got something missing, like your messaging is off, or you've got some kind of a offering mismatch with your audience. So there may be something out of whack. These are the things I cover in my Revenue Rush roadmap when I'm meeting people one-on-one. This allows me to really look at what's not working. But overall, when I meet with a client, I do an audit, I really assess what's working, what's not working, where do things maybe go a little sideways. What I find is one of these 7 things is really what's up for you. And I have to start with mindset first, because everything pivots around our mindset. And the mindset I want you to embrace right now is to think bigger and stretch. See, what happens for a lot of us is we try to solve a problem with the same level of thinking the problem got created, or the level of thinking that's keeping us stuck in the problem. And we can't solve a problem that way. That's why I think coaching exists, because for many people, they need someone to shine a light on that blind spot. in this case, in order to become your own economy and to really rise above the noise of all the people around you, you have to think outside the box you are currently in. So that might mean instead of just focusing on getting that next sale in the door, you might need to think bigger and think what would create a bunch of momentum, or what's a bold action I could do to really shake things up. It might mean that you, instead of focusing on selling 20 more books at $20, you start thinking, how do I sell a $1,000 package or a $2,000 package or a $10,000 package? See, what happens for most people is they get stuck in the weeds and they're just trying to figure out how to pick up a couple more pennies or dimes instead of really shooting for something so big that it transforms the financial flow. And I have found personally that when we focus on a lot of low-end offers, we start to create this paradigm that, and it's almost like this trap gets formed that everything gets stuck inside $200 or less box. And it's really hard to create a big financial flow at $200 or less. So I want you to think bigger. Here's an example. I was working with one of the clients in the Amplify Mastermind, and she's had some impact from the COVID fallout. Her audience is completely shut down right now. So through no fault of her own, she has found a significant cash flow issue. So the pivot, the think bigger, was she was trying to scrape together some $200, $300 sales to get one-on-one people into her online course. And I'm like, yeah, you could do that. And there's some momentum gaining for her around one of her topics that's really relevant in our space right now. And I'll come back to relevance next, around diversity and respect and creating space for, the whole conversation around racial biases and things like that in the workplace. And so that topic is really gaining some traction in another industry. And I'm like, how do you ride that wave? How do you go find the big gold fruit that's hanging just slightly out of reach and go pick that fruit instead of trying to scrape around and pick up 100 apples to make up that one golden apple? So that metaphor is what I'm trying to get across to you, is think bigger. Don't just chase the little stuff that's right in front of you. Now, that might be what you have to do at certain times to fill in the gaps. But when you need to become your own economy, you cannot get stuck in the weeds. So think bigger, stretch yourself outside your current box, look at it from a new perspective, and find the thing that will really move the revenue needle. Okay, we'll talk about that on step 3. So 1 is think bigger, really fine tune your mindset to, I am my own economy. So what do I need to captivate? What do I need to focus on? What action do I need to take that allows that economy to be prosperous? Let's talk about relevance. If you want to be your own economy and you want to be able to command cash flow on demand, like really own that and really be able to embody that experience, you have to make sure that what you're talking about is relevant. This is a long life lesson for me. So I've been in business 20 years this year, and it took me a really long time to figure this out. And it's very easy, especially if you're a heart-based service provider or you have a lot of passion for what you do, to kind of fall back into what you know is really powerful and amazing about your work and get caught up in your reality. And then we forget to bridge to the reality of the person who could buy. And that's where relevance comes in. So relevance basically means that when you pay attention to what your audience is craving, what your audience is struggling with, and what is really their current mood and their need, you can pivot your message and your offerings to reach them. This is not easy at all times. Some of us are better at this than others. I tend to be one of those people where I like to find my groove and stay in my groove, if you know what I mean. Relevance means that sometimes you've got to be nimble and adaptable and really meet your audience where they are. I want to take a page from the work of Harville Hendrix in the Imago system of communication. So if you don't know about Harville Hendrix in this work, it's profound relationship work. It's profound for coaches and anyone who's leading and inspiring other people, especially if you tend to find that you bump into communication challenges a lot. And the idea here is that when we're all right, let me back up. So the idea of Harville Hendrix' work in Imago is that the person you're in communication with has their own reality. They've got their own needs, their own issues, their own wounds, their own triggers. They've got their own thoughts. And you're in your planet, you're over on your side, and you've got a different set of all those things. And oftentimes what happens in communication is the conversation you're having is not the same one the other person's having. And that's where misunderstandings come in and people don't sync up. Well, when it comes to marketing, there's a similar thing happening. And that is the conversation and the needs and the reality of the person that you know you can help. They may be stuck in this very urgent need or this priority that has zero to do with what you know can help them. And if you don't learn to build a bridge between your reality and their reality, no one ever gets what they need. You don't get the sale, they don't get the solution. So relevance is you building up the muscle to learn how to take what you know can help somebody who's stuck and go over to their side of the paradigm, go across the bridge and really listen to what's up for them, pay attention to what they're seeking right now, and bridge your message so it's relevant. This is how great marketers make sales that elude you, because you're stuck on trying to convince them that what you will do is going to help them. They don't want to be convinced. They want to have the trust that what they want and need, what they want can be given to them by you. That's once they're in is when you give them what you need. The old saying, don't sell them what they need, sell them what they want. So I go much deeper into this in the Rocks Method. So you can go back. I will hook this up in the show notes to listen to my Rocks Method podcast episode. And if you know that trying to build that bridge between your ideal client and your reality is challenging for you, I'm going to highly recommend that you enroll in my Get Magnetic Messaging program, because the messaging is really, one of my graduates said it best. She said, I literally learned an entirely new language, a language I didn't even know I needed. But once I learned it, I felt so much more confident trying to message things. And that's where relevance comes in. Relevance is what my audience is searching for relevant? Like the thing they're searching for, is my offering relevant to them? And when you can message across that bridge, you will increase your sales. And this is a key to becoming your own economy, because when you master this, you can literally turn on an offer and explode sales, because everybody goes, oh my God, I need this. Because you really start to understand their needs and how what you do gets them what they need. And I'm not saying what you do has to be changed. I'm saying you have to change the messaging so it better matches what they're looking for in their reality. Okay, so that's number 2, relevance. Number 3 is focus, but not the way you think. So here's what I see a lot of people doing. They're very busy with a lot of activity that is not moving their revenue needle. They're very busy with a lot of ideas. They're very busy with a lot of things their creative self had this brilliant idea to do. But less than 80% of it is really moving the revenue needle. And what happens is you get caught up in a lot of bright, shiny ideas. It's kind of like squirrel. Oh, look at that, what that person would do. I'm just going to do that. And you don't have a strategy behind it. You don't understand the tactical maneuvers that will help you really get the result. So you're just chasing ideas all the time. And that will keep you very busy, but not profitable. If you want to become your own economy, you have to really know what moves the revenue needle, and that's your unique profit amplifier. That's my word for your high-performing offer. I have to tell you, learning this one thing, really understanding what moves money fast, is the key to increasing revenue quickly. And then there's the discipline and having the boundaries with yourself and the world around you to not let yourself continue to get caught up in all these cool ideas that may work, but really saying, I will focus on moving the revenue forward first on what I know sells the fastest and the most. Now, you may not know what your unique profit amplifier is, and a lot of people don't. It's because it's the forest and the trees. It's in our blind spot. It's so obvious to everyone else, but you're in it. You're in the thick of it, and you can't see it. And that's okay. That's what coaching's for. We teach that in the Get Magnite messaging. But what you must do is start to analyze your offerings to understand what sells easily. And it's literally just asking yourself better questions. So if you want to become your own economy, the third thing you have to do is embrace and focus like a laser hawk on what's really going to move the revenue needle, and have the discipline to release the other things. And it might be scary, but I can tell you, I'm working on a client with this right now. She said that in the first 6 months we've worked together, she has grown tremendously because she's finally realized why she's not gotten where she wanted to be, because she was chasing all these bright, shiny objects all the time. And it's a discipline. It's a muscle we have to build. You have the capability, but you need to retrain the way your mind seeks opportunity. Instead of trying to create more stuff and do more, sell more of the thing that performs the best. Okay, and I will hook up a link to an episode I did on UPA. If this is something that eludes you and you're like, oh, I need to better understand it, I'll hook you up. So look in the show notes for that. The fourth thing is implement a revenue rush. So I gave you the free resource at the beginning, and there's 10 potential ways you can do that. That might be enough for you to figure it out. What I would suggest is think of a way that you can exponentially increase revenue in the next 7 days or the next 30 days. Sometimes you need a little more space to implement it wisely. If you're really nimble and you can move quickly, then you might be able to do these in the next couple days. A couple of my favorites, especially if you already have an online business, is the quick upsell. So quick upsell basically means that when you're driving traffic, you're driving viewers to an offer of some kind, that when they take that first step and say, yeah, I want that, offer them something to go with it at a ridiculously low price. I've tested this over the years, and sometimes it works better than others. One way we do this is from time to time, we offer a special on my Money DNA 2.0. It's literally every 3 to 4 years we do this. And just laying a little hint, you might see this happen real soon. If you're in my Amplify Your Success community, you might see one of these happening in the next 5 to 7 days. Just a little hint. What we would do is offer something at around the $200 to $500 range, and then bundle something with it for a ridiculous price. So we've done this with Money DNA, where we add either a revenue rush roadmap session, or we add another tool like my Profit Explosion Toolkit together. So boom, it all happens in the first step after they say yes. And what we found is 49% of the people that buy that first offer will say yes to the second one. So you're literally doubling and tripling your revenue on a sale or on a special promotion you're doing. Now, you don't want to do this all the time, but done tastefully and well, you can add a couple of digits easily on a sale or a campaign that you're doing. That's just one of the 10 strategies I teach. You want to find one that feels really aligned for you, depending on your particular business model. Let's now go to number 5, and that is be in a rising tide. Now, this goes back to something I teach, which is about who you surround yourself with. And it's a part mindset, but part environment. It's part, this idea that what you surround yourself with is what infuses your belief system. It will add courage or take courage away. A rising tide is the idea that when you're in a community of people who are really killing it and they're crushing their goals, they're in momentum, and they're moving positively forward towards their goals, it's very hard to fail. And the idea of a rising tide is that when the tide rises, it lifts all the little boats. Okay, that was a John F. Kennedy quote. And in this particular case, if you want to become your own economy, you cannot be in a shrinking tide. You cannot be surrounded with people who are, woe is me, I have no money, nothing's working, I can't sell anything for the life of me. That might be true, but the problem is they haven't learned to think and access the skills we're teaching right here. As a matter of fact, you should probably send this episode to them if they're chronically in that conversation, because they have not grasped their capability, their capacity to be their own economy, and they're buying into the collective consciousness of scarcity. And you don't have to do that. So you need to figure out who's creating a rising tide and how do I get in that tide with them so it's less effort for me to raise my game financially, physically, emotionally. Okay, a rising tide feels effortless. It's almost like you just tap into the momentum. And there's a lot of ways a rising tide kicks in. So one way it kicks in is you are with people who think more strategically, they think more powerfully, and they're like, hey, try this, try that. And you're like, that's brilliant. And so they can see things you can't see. This comes from your coach. It could come from a mastermind. I see this happening all the time in the Amplify mastermind. The rising tide brings people up because there are key members of that experience that are so kicking butt that they are just pulling, like a magnet pulling people with them. You can also create your own rising tide, be your own rising tide by tapping into JVs and that's joint ventures and affiliate relationships and partnering. You know, I find that tapping into communities where people eagerly want to cross promote and support each other, whatever version that looks like, doesn't always have to look like affiliate partnering, but whatever that looks like in your industry, that is another way to tap into and or become your own rising tide. Okay, so think about what's happening in your environment. What are you surrounded with? And are you in a rising tide? Or do you need to choose to be in a rising tide? Do you need to choose a mastermind where people have your back, where your coach won't give up on you, where they're constantly challenging you to step into the greatest version of you and you feel this effortless momentum? Or are you constantly slugging it out, feeling like you're stuck in concrete? You feel alone and isolated. That's not a rising tide. You feel constricted when you talk to people. They're like, nobody's positive. Everybody's, upside down. And that may become your norm. You don't want it to be. Okay, so become a rising tide. Or be in a rising tide until you can become your own rising tide. Let's cover these last two really quickly. Number 6. is all about the finances. And there's two key elements of finances that we got to talk about here. I'm not going to deep dive into it, but I want to bring them to your attention. And one of them, again, is about the mindset. And the other one is a practice. So first, if you want to become your own economy, then you have to have financial prowess. That means you have to commit to being the person who thrives in their own economy. And that means you have to shift gears. You have to stop worrying about what things cost, and you have to start committing to invest in your growth. Now, here's what I mean by that. It's very easy to get tricked into believing that things cost a lot of money. And it only costs you money if you're not actively evaluating the result you're getting. So let's take someone who's thinking about really upping their game financially, and they know they need to start doing some marketing. And they might look at hiring someone to help them with their marketing, whether it's a coach or they're thinking about doing Facebook ads or whatever the right thing is for you. But if you're stuck on that costs too much, you're missing the point. It only costs too much if it's not bringing you a return. You have to flip the script. You have to flip the conversation you're having about money. And I see people walk away from getting the support they need, whether it's through a coach or joining a mastermind, because they get caught up in the cost of something instead of saying, what would have to happen for me to 10x my return on this investment? When you train yourself to think in terms of what do I need to invest in right now to become the person that will get what I need in order to grow my business and get results, it's a game changer. So flip the script. Stop focusing on what things cost. Start thinking about what you need to invest. Otherwise, here's what's going to happen. you're going to constrict when times are tough. And constriction begets constriction. Write that down. When I constrict and I focus on what things cost and I stop focusing on what I'm investing in to grow, I will convince myself logically that it costs too much, and I will hold myself back, and I will not do the very things that will help me leap forward, and I will ultimately not pull the trigger. And that means that what you constrict on now will actually will result in less income for 3 to 6 months, if not a year to 2 years. Everybody has a different timeline on what you invest in now and how it produces results. The second concept of finances, and this is something I get into deeply in Money DNA 2.0. So I'm not going to get deep in it, but I want to bring it up here, and that is leverage your reserves. When we are in turbulent times, this is the time that if you've done what I teach in Money DNA 2.0 and create reserves for yourself, that you will use those to leap instead of feeling like you have to constrict. Now, some people right now have been able to tap into special SBA loans, PPP loans, whatever that is. That can be a form of reserves if you haven't planned for that. And we should take advantage of it because the deals are amazing if you need them. And some people have their own reserves that they're kicking into right now. Reserves mean that you have a source and supply of money to cover your growth needs at times you cannot plan for. And we all have them. I've been in business 20 years. This is my third economic upheaval I've been through. I started my business with one. I hit one 9 years in. We're hitting another one now. They're just going to happen. It's the world. But if you can plan for the worst and have a financial game plan to move through those times, you won't have to constrict. Okay. So that is something I tackle how to do that in Money DNA 2.0. It's in the seventh module of that program, if that's something you need. And goes along with the getting out of debt, which might be very relevant for people right now. But at a minimum, really look at your practices around creating financial reserves. My last way is stay nimble. So what I mean by that is it kind of ties into my episode I did a while back on the 80% plan. Well, in turbulent times, you're probably going to have a 40% plan, a 30% plan. And that is, you can only plan for so much, and then you actually have to be willing to dance with everything that's sliding around. It's like we're in a time in our world right now where best plans are going to have to be nimble and adapt because there are things that erupt and evolve that we have absolutely zero control over. So we cannot control how the events unfold in our economy and in our world. We may think restaurants are getting ready to open. We may think that we can start traveling again. We may think we can have an event. We may think that this one particular offering is going to be amazing when we get it out there in the world. And we literally cannot control all of the moving parts. So we have to stay nimble. And instead of taking failure or change or things that fall apart personally, because some people do, I have been one of those, we have to say, all right, so quick costume change. We're going to move this direction over here now. And this is where we come back to relevance. You know, we had a plan for what we were going to do this summer that all of a sudden really wasn't relevant anymore. And we've had this plan for 6 months. And part of being your own economy is being willing to adapt to what's happening in the world around you. Now, we don't want to be like the leaf off the tree that's just blowing around in the wind, but we want to be smart and savvy and say, look, I'm really paying attention. My ears are on the ground and I know what's going on with my industry. I know what my clients are craving. And I think what we're about ready to do is not going to meet them on their side of the bridge. So when you stay nimble, you can course correct, change a little bit of language, reposition something, or go a different direction entirely. I've had friends and clients who were big speakers and they made 80% of their money through trainings or keynoting. And of course, when everything shut down this year, they had to pivot that. And I've seen that every time we go through an economic upheaval. So stay nimble, my friend. It is one of the superpowers that will allow you to become your own economy. Because when you're nimble, you can adapt. If you're stuck in a pole position and not allow yourself to move when necessary, not move on a whim, but move because it's necessary, you have the ability to cross that bridge into relevance. I'm really curious to hear what your take is on today. I'm going to create some conversation about this in the Amplify Your Success community. If you are a member of that community, you know that from time to time, we are creating specialty trainings, specialty events. I'm going to be doing some training on becoming your own economy. I'm going to be offering some special resources to meet you on the side of the bridge where you really want to build this muscle up and stop flailing around because everything keeps changing. Ground yourself. Get rooted in the knowledge that you have the ability to do this. I believe in you. I do know it's possible, but I would challenge you to think bigger and stretch yourself to believe it too. This is Melanie Benson, your host. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you want to catch up on any of the show notes and circle back on any of the resources we shared in today's show, head on over to the show page at amplifyyoursuccesspodcast.com. And remember, you amplify your results faster when you're in a community of other people who are moving and shaking. Join us at amplifyyoursuccesscommunity.com. One last thing. When you've gained insight from today's episode, help us share that and inspire other people by heading over to iTunes, subscribing, and give it a review. iTunes absolutely loves seeing these reviews pop up, and it actually helps boost my show's visibility. So I would be super grateful for your reviews. And as always, I love seeing your shares of these episodes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Come find me over there. Tag me in your shares. I'll give you some social media love right back. So see you next week for another inspiring episode of Amplify Your Success Podcast.